great story to open with.
What is that, Brian?
I almost got eaten by a bear on my vacation.
Sweet.
So let me just preface this for you. So we went to Gatlinburg, went to the mountains, and we had a great cabin. I want to say it was midway up a pretty nice sized mountain.
Okay.
And we noticed when we got there were bears everywhere.
Now you were in Tennessee, though.
It was in Tennessee.
Yeah, there's bears in Tennessee.
There were bears everywhere.
Yeah.
Like if we saw one bear, we saw 30. Like there was bears everywhere. And this kind of area we were in had a bunch of cabins in it. And most of the cabins had bear-proof trash cans. You know, those trash cans that lock on the top and you have to be able to slide underneath and lift them up. Well, some cabins didn't. And these morons were dragging their trash out to the curb. And the bears had like a route that they took every day because they knew where the trash cans were. And at first it was fun. Like we saw like a family of 4 bears all around these trash cans eating garbage and wrestling. And I was like, well, that's funny. So on Tuesday night, my wife says to me, Brian, let's grill hot dogs tomorrow night. I'll go get hot dogs. We'll grill out tomorrow night. And I was like, Julie, there's a ton of bears. I was like, if they smell me cooking outside, it's going to attract the bears. No, it'll be fine. And then my son made fun of me. My oldest boy made fun of me like for hours. And right up until right before I started cooking, he was giving it to me. So I'm like, fine, you know what? I'm going to cook some hot dogs on the grill if I get killed by a bear.
Let me ask you something, though.
What?
So you went to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And you're in the mountains of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Did you even bring anything to take care of a bear situation?
Oh, yeah, I was armed to the teeth. So was my dad.
Okay.
Like if a bear rolled up and got aggressive, we were going to put a bear down. Don't worry about it.
Sure, man.
I'm not crazy. Like I had 2 pistols. My dad had a pistol.
I'm just saying, sitting out there.
If the bear was coming,
cooking some grills, some hot dogs.
I was going to catch some hot ones.
Hey!
So we're standing there cooking. My dad's talking. And then out of nowhere, he goes quiet for a second. And this is all I hear him say, Reggie. He says, would you look at that? And my first thought is, must be like a beautiful like sunset. Must be like a beautiful bird or, And this is not a joke. I turn around and there was a bear standing so close to me, Reggie, that I could have reached out and booped its nose. So I'm standing there. The bear's not being aggressive, but I have a tray of cooked hot dogs in my left hand. And every time I move the hot dog, the bear follows the hot dogs. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm in trouble. And my dad's like, we got to get in the house. And I'm like, yeah, that would be optimal. But
and it's a black bear, right?
It's a black bear.
Yeah, that's what they have in Tennessee, which are aggressive.
He wasn't aggressive. He never growled or snorted or anything.
But like those are the ones you don't run for, or you don't stand still. And
I wasn't going to run from him.
Yeah.
Because I knew if I ran from him, he would chase me.
Well, no, what I'm saying is you know like how sometimes you can lay dead.
Play dead and the bear will go away? Yeah, no,
that's not a black bear. You don't do that with a black bear.
So
just FYI, folks, that's a real extra thing. Don't do that.
Scrambling through my brain to figure out the best out for this, right? And my dad tries a couple times to like scare the bear. He's like, rah, and the bear's looking at him like, dude, I will eat you. Yeah, I will eat you like a turkey sandwich.
Yeah, because they're so accustomed to humans, they don't really care.
So I'm like, okay. So I realize that he's looking at the hot dogs, and I still have like 2 or 3 hot dogs on the grill that I haven't gotten yet. So I slowly grab my tongs, and as to not be threatening to the bear, I reach behind me and I grab a hot dog and I do this. And when I bring it up front, I can see him watching the hot dog. So I'm like, okay. So real quickly, I toss the hot dog about 8 feet that way. He chases the hot dog. So I'm like, out. I turn around, I whip those 2 hot dogs into the tray. We run upstairs. We get upstairs. Like crazy people, my family doesn't lock and close the door. Everybody's huddled around the deck. And I say out loud, I'm like, hey, the bear can still smell the hot dogs. If you guys don't shut that door, he's going to come up on the deck. Well, here they go again. No, he's not coming up here, Dad. No. What does he do next? Comes right up the deck. So everybody, like a freaking, Marx Brothers cartoon, is trying to get through the door at the same time. They close the door. The bear like stalks our deck for like 15, 20 minutes, man. Like he's not growling or anything, but he's kind of looking for an opening, right? He's looking for an
their
in.
sense of smell is retarded. And
I'm like, So I put him on the table, and then finally I think he just gets bored. So then he goes to the backside of this deck and squeezes through these 2 deck rails and goes onto the hill and goes on up. I tell you what, Reggie, there's never been a tastier hot dog than one came from under the threat of being mauled by a bear. Like it was an intent, dude. Look, man, I never once like freaked out, but I was like, all right, so I'm in this situation where this is a very unkind animal when aggravated, and it could toss me around like a sack of potatoes. I was like, so how do I handle this in a calm manner as to not upset this bear? And then
Freaking hot dogs, bro.
It over hot dogs, dude. And so needless to say, for the rest of the time we were there, I did not grill out because I did not want to. And here's what's funny. He came back the next night at the same time and walked the deck in the same way, thinking he was going to find a hot dog.
That's awesome.
And anytime I told anybody that story, you know what the first thing they said to me was? You're not supposed to feed the bears. I was like, screw you. I'm also not supposed to die from a bear attack. So if I fed him a hot dog, I'll be all right. But dude, there were bears everywhere. I was talking to one guy who was down in like the go-kart area on the main drag in Pigeon Forge. And I was telling him about the bears, and he goes, oh, dude, he goes, they'll come down and walk the middle of the median in rush hour down here. And he goes, they're just hunting for trash people have thrown out. He goes, they'll get in the dumpsters behind the restaurants, 2 or 3 of them. They'll all climb in the dumpsters and eat out of the dumpsters. He goes, they're everywhere. And he goes, there's just more and more of them every year. And there's laws down there against killing them. Like I couldn't have shot that bear unless it attempted to attack me.
Right.
I had to stand there calmly and hope that I didn't look like a tasty morsel.
Yep.
So
they get a lot of them get hit by cars and all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah. So moral of the story is don't grill hot dogs near bears. There you go.
That's pretty awesome.
Dude, I'm telling you, bears are, and from what I understand, the moms are the most aggressive.
Yes, they are.
And they don't let the dads hang around after the cubs are born. They like run the dads off because they don't want the dads to have anything to do with raising the cubs.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. There's
it's a very
weird,
strange dynamic.
Yeah,
you know. And apparently, cubs have a specific cry that they let out that the mother will respond to aggressively. And also, if you took 100 cubs and you lined them all up in a row, by scent alone, the mother bear could pick out her cub.
Yes.
That's nuts.
That's crazy. But yeah, that's how, well, you got to look at how long, like their nose is so,
yeah,
it's huge, this canal for all this stuff.
Yeah. And I also found out that bears' ears are long when they're cubs and they shorten as they get older because their heads get bigger.
Well, there you go.
All kinds of interesting bear facts came to light after my experience with a bear. And here's the other thing. We never heard the bear coming when it never made a sound. Like it was standing behind me and I didn't know it was there. Like that's how quiet they are. And I was on a gravel driveway. You figure you would have heard some rustling, nothing. You heard nothing.
Yeah. No. You're not going to hear much. I mean, they're pretty slick, dude. That's cool.
There could be a bear in your living room right now and we wouldn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would know. I would know.
I don't know.
Because I have dogs.
He could be pretending to be like a bear statue.
That's true. I do have Sasquatch up on the mantle.
I know. Sam Squanch. I was kind of hoping to have a Sam Sasquatch sighting while I was there, just so I could be part of the club. People seem to get really excited about seeing Sasquatch.
Give me a break, bro. You mean to tell, like, and then you remember what you asked me, the conspiracy or
yeah.
In Sasquatch, right? I mean, just after all this time, we're still talking about it.
I know, because it's Sasquatch, man. Well, it's because there's some towns in the United States that have made their whole town about Sasquatch.
I guess, bro, it's just silly.
Which would be like a really boring town after about 8 minutes. Hey, look, it's Sasquatch. All right, let's go. But anyway.
So I did a solo episode without you.
I know. You probably were more successful because the subject matter was probably more in your expertise than my expertise.
It was a lot different, dude. I mean, like trying to prep for a solo thing, it reminded me of like when I've had to speak or something, you know? And so you're like, how do you orchestrate this? How do you do that? Are you going to script a certain part or not? Are you going to do this? You want to make it sound natural, but it all needs to flow together, and you got to plan it all out. And it was interesting. It was cool to actually do something like that. And I put some visuals in it just so it wasn't so just Reggie's talking head the whole whole time. But even so it was like a whole lot more work though.
And what was the episode about again?
Oh, thank you for watching it. I appreciate that.
I did watch it, but I want you to explain
AI.
Because if I explain it, it's going to be like, robotos that are.
Yeah, the whole episode was really about, I felt like there's not so many real people talking about AI and what it actually is. Like you get this constant AI slop out there about like, what AI does this and that, and then
take over the world.
Oh, but then you have two camps that say like either it's the end of everything or it's humanity. It's going to revolutionize humanity. Blah blah blah. But I'm completely like in this third camp, right? Mm-hmm. But because I feel like there's just not been enough voices of tech people who don't view AI as like this savior or doom. I just don't feel like there's a lot of them, and I kind of wanted to be that, and share exactly what actually AI is, like technically what it is right now, and what AGI is supposed to be, and super intelligence. And I didn't get into too much of that stuff because that's a whole other episode too. But like, the whole point being is that there's a whole lot of misconceptions about AI right now. And I'm not saying it's not powerful at all, or can be. It's like completely safe or not, or completely dangerous. It's like it's a tool, and you can use it for however you want it. And during that course of doing this research and stuff, there was a Diary of a CEO episode with Roman Yampolsky, which is a very well known AI safety guru kind of person who pioneered it really. And I just ran across this thing, and it triggered my apologetics nerd, and I had to tackle it because he was all about the simulation theory during one of the podcasts he was on. Anyway, so that was what it was. It was really cool to do it by myself. I scripted some of it. I didn't. I went back and then tried to get some visuals of like little clips of video and stuff like that to put in there to make it look a little bit more interesting than mine. But it took me so long though. I really had to like cut the efforts of what I had planned for it out because it was just taking too long, and I just wanted to get something up.
Yep.
So it ended up being what it was. And I was proud of it, dude. I think it was cool.
You did well. He did well. He did well.
But it was a different tone than what we come at here.
Did you talk like this?
No, it wasn't that. It was just like,
my name is Reginald.
Because we goof around a lot.
I know.
And because we're just talking like we normally do. But when you're talking about a subject, and you're trying to get a point across, it changes how you. It changes
your delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was a little different. No,
I'm about 70% of the way through it. And I found it interesting. Been listening to it in the car everywhere I go. Like that's how I listen to podcasts now. Is that strange? I get in the car, I connect my Bluetooth, and I put on a podcast.
No, that's not strange. Why would that be strange? I
don't know.
That's a lot of people do.
But I also have this really cool like little in-table speaker that my son gave me. It's an in-table, but it's got a Bluetooth speaker in it.
Yeah.
And when I'm at home, I'll plug something into that and listen to it while I'm like writing something or doing something. And so I find that that's the most effective way for me to absorb the podcast. But anyway, so today's subject, Reggie, because of my family history, holds a deep attachment for me, and that is the decades-old argument: is addiction a choice or a disease?
Okay, but it's not a clear. Let's just say this up front. This isn't like a very one of those subjects where you go, it's this. It's not a binary choice here.
It's not. I used to really believe that it was, but when you're surrounded by people who are addicted, you tend to lean against the extreme against addiction so that you can place blame, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying that people who get addicted don't have some level of responsibility for the addiction that they create.
And notice we're using addiction as broad termed here too.
Yeah.
I think that's important to know.
We also need to talk about, it's not just about drugs. It can be porn. It can be gambling. It can be,
what was sex addiction?
It can be any kind of anything that you have an unhealthy, repetitive attachment to.
Right. But there's just to preface this whole how we're going to do this. There is some studies. There is some actual reputable medical science and research that's done that show some things, and there's some, and they kind of have a conflict in a few areas. And then there is a Christian response to this too.
Yeah, there is.
And that's not exactly binary either, from just a strict choice or disease kind of thing. And then we're going to talk specifically about cannabis and stuff later on too, because I think that's an important part of this, because it gets a lot of people take that and don't assume it's the same thing or it's not addictive or whatever and all this kind of, but there's some research behind that too. So let's get started, Brian. The association, let's see, the American Association of Addiction Medicine, ASAM.
ASAM, yes. There, two ASAM definitions exist, and what we want to do is cover them both. 2011 long definition essentially is a primary chronic disease of the brain, reward, motivation, memory related circuitry. It's I want to call it here's where I get most of my grief. I call it a chosen addiction. Does that make sense? Because most addictions start with a choice. I'm struggling, so I'm going to choose to try this thing, even though I know this probably isn't good for me. I'm going to shoot up this heroin, or I'm going to download this pornographic image, or I'm going to drink this bottle of alcohol, or I'm going to punch this guy in the nose, or whatever it is that you're addicted to, right?
Okay.
So I believe that it is something I believe that we have addictive tendencies, but I believe anybody can become addicted to anything if the right exposure is given, right? So I don't know at that point, by that definition, addiction is a treatable chronic medical disease involving complex interactions among brain circuits, genetics, and the environment. I don't quite understand. I agree more with that because it gives more of a onus on the environmental change that you make in order to become addicted. Does that make sense? Then the people that walk in and go, you've got the disease of heroin. Well, no. Heroin's not a disease. It's a thing. It's a physical manifested thing that you use in order to trigger your addiction, your addictive tendencies.
Yeah. So there's two things to note here. One is this is what you read was like a 2019 definition. Yeah. That's a recent thing. It's not like
it's not old.
And it's important to understand though that, this disease kind of stuff came out in 1959.
Yeah.
That's way before
you did brain scans or MRIs,
all that stuff.
Yeah.
So there was actual claims before even they had real scans of brain activity and what was going on.
Yes.
According to ASAM, though, the disease is really about brains, not the drugs. So it's about how your brain works, not really about the substance itself.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's kind of important because you have the disease model from on one side, and then you have the choice and learning model on the other. And we have some research to get into there. But there's really, and this is where I'm at, there's a trap here, and there really is.
There is.
And especially with the Christian stuff. Christians kind of really tend to lean heavily on the choice part.
Yes.
And because they're like, no, it's in the Bible that you shouldn't be a drunkard and all this other stuff. But, you know, then you have the scientists and the medical industry that really grabs a hold of the disease part because they want to be compassionate, and they have seen the brain scans and they know about genetics and all this kind of stuff. So where we're going here is that I really want to take how addiction is really defined as far as what we see in the brain, and then how these substances come to do this stuff, how the environment takes hold of it, and let's just see where choice lines up with some of this stuff in the middle, right?
Well, and here's just to kind of explain why I struggle with this is I come from a family with a deep background of addiction, alcohol, drugs. I've never been addicted to either one. Never desired them. Don't really have anything in me that. So I struggle with the genetic aspect because I mean it's literally ran rampant through my family. I want to say 3 or 4 generations.
Yeah.
So
understood.
So that's where my struggle is do I believe that things like alcoholism, drug use, throw them all in there, sex addiction, all that stuff is a disease? I believe that it is a disease, but I believe it's a chosen disease. I believe when you make that choice in the initial to go that route, and I'm not downplaying. I have a close friend that I used to work with who died from alcoholism, died alone in his apartment floor. We tried to get him to stop drinking several times. Apparently he ran out of alcohol, went into deep DTs, had a heart attack and died. I get the struggle part of it, right? I don't demean addiction on any level.
Yeah.
But the reason I feel like you need to draw a line is you don't have a pain in your side and go to a physician and have tests run and they go, oh, you're an alcoholic. To me, cancer, ALS, all those diseases, you don't get by choice. There might be a genetic marker, right? But you're not making choices to inflict cancer, Lou Gehrig's disease, all these things on yourself, right? But in the way of like all these addictions that we've talked about, there's a point where a choice is made. I don't like how things are going. I don't like how I feel. I don't like who I am. I don't like what's going on. So let me take this substance, watch this video, do this thing. And I think most people are smart enough nowadays with the flow of information to know that it's not a good choice. But whatever's going on in their life to cause them whatever pain they need to mask, cover up, deal with, to them it's a scales thing, right? Like, do I want to be an addict but I can erase the pain and just drone out and I don't have to feel this anymore? Or do I want to do all of the extraordinarily hard work that's going to take me to get past this? I believe that's the choice that triggers the disease of addiction, right? Does that make sense? I feel like that's... Yeah. I feel like when I say that, a lot of people get really mad.
No, I mean, well, I'm not going to, but I think we have to look at what has happened as far as research goes and what they've found, right? In order to kind of say whether or not anybody should be mad or not.
Yeah.
Because there was I don't know. I remember reading about this called Rat Park.
Oh yeah, I remember this. I've read about this study several times.
Yeah, it is crazy that they had an isolated. The earlier study was like just one rat alone.
Yeah.
With morphine water.
Mm-hmm. And he chose the morphine water over the loneliness.
Yeah. And he what they call it, self-administer.
Yeah.
Heavily. Because it was like, morphine water. Why?
Yeah, why not?
Rat alone, he's going to go for this freaking morphine water, right? Yeah. And it was like the conclusion early on in that was like the chemical hijacks the brain.
Yeah. which I don't disagree with.
Right. And then there was a challenge to that when they, they had like a rat colony. And they did the same thing with like morphine water, and the rats consumed far less of it. Right. So it was interesting. I found that. And so that's, cause that's a rat park started in like 1970. And then you had, the follow up to that was 2010, I believe. It was in a paper called The View from Rat Park. Okay.
Well, here's what I really find odd in all that. Even the pre-dependent rats, the rats that had become addicted before they started the colony, once they were a part of the colony, they cut back.
Right. Which would indicate that your environment plays a pretty big role. Yeah. Which we kind of already know this too, but let's be real that there is real science behind that stuff. So there was like some credibility questions. Mm-hmm. There was attempts to do like a replicatable thing, and they couldn't reproduce the same kind of stuff, which they were kind of saying there was, and I'm watering this down because I don't want to get into like
too heavy into one study.
Yeah, I mean it's really because at the end of the day I don't want to sit here and talk about rats for like freaking an hour. But anyway, they just suggested that maybe there was like a genetic component of rat strain difference, right?
Yeah.
Then they really couldn't. They actually conceded. The people who actually ran the rat colony stuff said, it's non-replication, and never really fully resolved why they never did. Okay, so what kind of comes out of it though that's real is that in the environment that you are in is a real contributing factor, and that social determinant patterns exist with addiction clusters, with poverty, dislocation, generalization.
Well, there's been
trauma,
studies,
and broken family structures. All those things are real.
Well, there's been studies, sociological studies, and I'm not usually one to go along with sociological, but from time to time they will have a study that makes sense. And if you live in a community where drug addiction is common, your likelihood of becoming addicted is almost 10 times what it normally would be.
It's crazy.
Like it's so there is something that has to do with environment. I would agree that what they say back when we were kids, lie down with dogs, get fleas, like a kind of thing.
They said this is your brain on drugs with the egg in the skin.
I know. Wasn't that a great commercial?
It was awesome.
I just made me want to eat eggs.
I still see it.
I know. It just makes me want to eat eggs.
I still hear the voice. I still hear
the
everything.
Sizzle.
It's crazy, dude. All right, so we need to talk like what actually happens in the brain though.
Okay.
Because I think this helps understand both sides of this coin a little bit better. Okay. Well, so this started with reward circuitry.
Yes. Dopamine.
The brain prioritizes the substance over food, relationships, or self-preservation. So that's what they're talking about. And this was there was 2 decades of research to support this as a brain disease.
That's Volkow, Koob, and McLellan, right?
Yes. Back in 2016 was the last update.
Again, these are recent things. These are not 30-year-old studies. So I like to make that.
But even they had some concessions, but I mean, but that's really the point. Was they were saying like, when these substances are in the brain reacts to these substances by saying it's going to prioritize those over the things it actually needs. Okay. Yeah. And then look, there's virtually zero data in humans establishing addiction as a brain disease. I have to say that.
Well, and I think there needs to be a caveat too, that of all the things that we've studied as human beings, the brain is the one we know almost the least about.
Well, there's a lot to that too.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like neurological studies are are very hard to come by with any accuracy, and basically because the brain is the complicated engine that separates us, right? Like we don't know how those neurological pathways are built or why some are easier, some are closed easier than others. It's not like when somebody has a stroke, right? Somebody has a stroke, neural pathways shut down. We only have so much time to reopen that pathway or it's shut down forever because of the damage done by the stroke.
I know that very well.
We don't know if that same thing is a result of addiction. Now, I can tell you that I have people in my family that I know put so much toxic drugs into their body that they've jacked their brain up forever. Like there's a point of no return. A stepbrother who is literally brain fried. Like he can't put 3 words together without stumbling. And I believe there is a determinate point of no return.
Okay, but the choice thing, let's get back to this.
Yeah.
The choice side of the fence, I think, is compelling. And because the research that Carl Hart did was actually pretty cool, and I didn't even know this existed. But you know, his thing was that most people who actually use the drugs don't become addicted.
Yes.
There's a lot of factors that explain a lot of it, right? And his study was like he these crack cocaine users. That's what he was studying on. They met the addiction criteria.
Yep.
Okay, and then he offered them a hit versus cash.
Mm-hmm.
And $5. He offered them $5, and 50% of the time they chose the drug over the $5.
Yep.
Okay, $20 though, and essentially no one.
0% drug.
Yeah. So I think that kind of leans towards there being some choice involved in no matter what. There's not 100% point where it's like the drug or nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there seems to be always agency in that decision.
Yes.
Okay. So just that whole thing with the payout though doesn't really equate to like, you know, it's 2 a.m. and you have this severe craving for whatever. You know, and there's no single diagnostic neural signature like Huntington's.
Yeah.
You know, to say, you know, whatever. So the actual dispute in all of this is really that neuroplasticity is undisputed. The fight is whether brain changed
And the will is gone.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So substances as maladaptive self-medication for unprocessed pain loops back to the environment. So this is one, I know this very well, but trauma. This is what we're talking about here, trauma. Does have a significant factor here. Now, the other thing, and you already said this, and with your example, the brain changes with sustained use.
Yes.
And that's differently than just like learning.
But I think that with extended use, the brain changes not chemically, but mechanically would be the best way I would say it. Like whatever your function is, you destroy enough of the brain where it's not a will thing. It's like if you put sugar in your gas tank enough times, you'll blow up your engine.
Well,
you see what I'm saying? Like there is a mechanical aspect to that needs to be kind of looked at, because if you're okay, so just to give you an idea, I've watched about 100 addiction documentaries, and there's one called The Art of Addiction.
Okay.
And in The Art of Addiction, they did a brain scan of an 18-year-old who was casually doing drugs. He was smoking marijuana and he was snorting cocaine, I think it said once or twice a month. Well, at 18 years old, his brain pretty much was still functioning at 100%. His IQ rate was still there. Everything was there. Then they followed this guy for 6 years. So he went from what he was doing to he was drinking excessively every day, smoking marijuana every day, and was going through an 8-ball of cocaine about every 3 days. He was in the throes of addiction. And when they did a brain scan on him at 26 years old, he had lost 35% of the mechanical function of his brain. And he wasn't going to regain it. Like, it wasn't going to come back. They said it's beyond the point of no return.
Yeah.
So I say that to say this. There is a point where mechanically you can damage the brain and the nervous system and the neurological pathways to the point where you're not going to recover them. And that, for me...
But are you saying it was a choice to get there?
It was. He was suffering from depression. He had suffered in a car wreck, and he had some physical pain. Chose to not take prescription painkillers. Chose to self-medicate.
Yeah, I got you.
So I think at that point there was a choice, right? Now, once they broke his history down, his father was an addict. His grandfather was an addict. His mother she called it fun drinking, but she was drinking 1.5 bottles to 2 bottles of wine a day. So I would say that's a full alcohol addiction. When they asked her if she would rather, they did an interview in the thing and they said, would you rather stop drinking wine or would you rather lose a leg? And she's like, take my leg.
Yeah, that's
addiction, right? So he came from a history of people who had an addictive tendency. So do I think that that's a factor? Yes. Do I think that's a strong enough factor to excuse the choice is the argument. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. For me anyway. But it's like you said, I mean, if you look at, is it compulsion? Like, is that a factor? Can someone be more addictive that has compulsive issues?
Sure.
Some people are compulsive and they just start on something because it's just a uncontrollable impulse. I'm not saying that addiction in the overarching thing. And here's the thing, I'm going to get yelled at. I've caught so much flack over this, although I've tried to approach it in a way where I recognize both sides, right? But I also think that some of the ways of recovering from addiction can not be a way to make you not an addict, but a way to make you addicted to something else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because most people that I know that are true addicts, even if they stop doing drugs, stop watching porn, stop doing this, stop doing that, they usually wind up addicted to something else. I have another brother who was a criminal and a pill addict, and now he's addicted to prosperity gospel and going out and asking for money to get people to pray for him and stuff like that. And I'm like, so you've traded this addiction to destroy your physical body to addiction that's going to destroy your spiritual being. So it's kind of where I'm at with that, right?
But I think that's where we're at, though. Like,
yeah.
Okay. So if we look at if we look at brain scans and we look at how the brain works and compared to addiction and what it does with drug uses and uses of whatever, the research has been done with that shows environment and all this kind of stuff. None of that answers the question whether or not it's, agency versus compulsion. Well, they don't.
Here's a better example, and this is the one that I get clubbed for constantly. And let me preface what I'm about to say by saying I have nothing against AA, NA, any of that stuff. I would much rather somebody be addicted to AA or NA than addicted to the drugs or the alcohol or whatever, or Sexaholics Anonymous or whatever anonymous you're in. But when you are in a program that says for the rest of your life you have to come here every week, you're never going to be strong enough to do this on your own. Your life is never going to be normal enough as an adult for you to engage with another adult to keep you, to be an accountability partner. There has to, in my mind, when you're addicted to a substance, there has to be a point when you go, I'm recovered now.
Why?
And I need to go into becoming an adult and making adult choices and trying to correct my life. because to me, every time you go to that sponsor, every time you go to that meeting, that is reminding you that you're an addict. And it's reminding you that you're weak. And it's reminding you that, because I actually went to an AA meeting with a friend, and I was really sad when I left because they used a lot of words that I just didn't agree with. He kept telling them how weak they were. You're just weak, and you're an addict, so you're not strong enough to live your life on your own. And well, dude, that'd make me want to take drugs. If you told me I was just a weakling and I was never going to be able to stand on my own 2 feet, and that I had to be here, or it was just going to be the ruination of me, and then I would be, when I left, he was like, "Oh, wasn't that great?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was all right." And then I asked him, I was like, are you okay with being called weak? And he's like, "Well, no, that kind of sucks." Oh, okay. So it was okay, but now you're addicted to this AA thing where you have to go, or you have been mentally told repeatedly that you're not strong enough as an adult and you can't recover your life. And that just troubles me, right? Like, I don't know why that troubles me so much, but it does.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I know what you're saying.
Yes.
However, I don't know if I disagree with that or not. I guess I gotta put it a different way.
But let me also say this: it's not a definitive either. Like, I've never studied it deep enough to be like, okay, is AA unnecessary? Is it necessary? All I'm saying is, if you came to me and said, I can either go to an AA meeting every week and never do drugs again, or I can do drugs again, I'm always going to tell you to go to the AA meeting. Every time. If that's what you need to stay clean, go. I want you to go. I just don't necessarily agree that if you rail out of the addiction in your 30s, that by the time you turn 65 or 70, you should still be depending on AA to keep you clean. At one point, your body's going to correct itself unless you've gone to that point of no return. Right? You're going to detox. That stuff's going to leave your system. Your environments are going to change. But I also have never had someone who can explain it to me in a way that makes sense. That's a better way to say it. It's a thinker, man. It really is.
Because I'm trying to put it in my own. I'm trying to. Here's what I'll say. We're all broken.
Yeah.
And I don't think any solution that is without Christ in the middle is going to be a solution.
Well, and that's something else. They say a higher power.
Yes, they do. It's built on Christian principles, though. I
struggle with that because most AA instructors that you talk to don't care whether it's God, Buddha, Sfektar, the alien
that's
from
a recent development, though.
Like, to me, that's very, again, but I agree with what you said.
Okay.
It needs to be a Christ-centered approach for sure.
All I'm saying is that we can never not be broken.
Yeah, we're always broken.
So whether that meaning we're an addict or not, which probably most of us are an addict at something.
Yeah. I'm a caffeine addict. Like, I love caffeine.
Okay, but my point is, though, for me, it's not so much that they go back to these meetings and that's because they keep going. Blah, 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 blah. That's just reinforcing what they're doing, I guess. It's the same thing why we go to church all the time and like read the Bible over and over and over again. We're reinforcing upon reinforcing. And it's kind of what, so I don't have any issues with that. I don't really think that's like a bad thing or not bad thing, but like, I don't think that illuminates a point.
I'm not saying it's bad.
I know you're not.
I'm just trying to understand it.
Right. But and the thing goes like also too, that if somebody brings in their 30-year chip, they've been sober for that and they go to a meeting, then they're kind of a mentor for some of the other people and all that kind of stuff. Same thing if you have a mature Christian who comes to a church.
It's exactly. Yeah.
But so I said, once you're an addict, if you don't, and I've heard this from other Christians who are prior addicts and stuff, that some of these people we're talking, rehabs and everything else, and they finally pulled out of it because of the relationship with Christ. And they say every single day they put that addiction at the foot of the cross.
Yeah.
And they have to do that every single day.
But on the flip side of the coin, I worked with a guy who was a cocaine addict, bankrupted his family. I mean, was a terrible addict. Went to rehab. Didn't go to AA, but went to like a 6-month rehab. Had to live in rehab.
Okay.
Got over his addiction. When I worked with him, he was nearly 60 years old. He hadn't had a drink or a drug in 30 years.
Okay.
And I asked him, I was like, is there days where you feel like drinking or taking drugs? And he's like, no. He's like the first 10 years, he was like, when stressful times would come, he said the temptation was there for me to smoke something or drink something or pop some pills, whatever I had to do. He goes, but there came a point where I just didn't have that desire anymore.
I know, but you're talking about individual brain chemistry.
But also, he was a youth minister. So he obviously had that faith-based center in his life where he was able to say, yeah, I everything I do is for God. So now whether that had anything to do with his loss of need to feel the need to use, I don't know.
Well,
that's per the individual.
You could say it does, but like at this, because I mean, there's no way that it wouldn't be in the middle of that. But what I'm saying is though is that we've already said that the brain changes with use over time. So if you had a heavy heroin addict or something who came off of it and was sober, now they've really done themselves in with some heroin. Their brain is likely have been impacted, right? Yeah. So that compulsion and stuff might not go away because they've damaged their
because they've basically built that neural pathway.
Exactly. So I'm just saying that I don't think you can just toss it off and say that, you should after so long be able to just say, no, I don't feel that way. Yeah. Because I think there's cases where that's not going to go away.
But also I say this too, I am against the stigma of once an addict, always an addict, treat that person like an addict. Does that make sense? Like I know lots of people that have been addicted and recovered, and they're good people and they're honest people, and they work hard and they take care of their family. So one of the things that I disagree with is the stigma of permanent. You're permanently an addict whether you're using or not, because I know you used it one time, therefore that's how I'm going to label you.
Yeah, I mean I don't agree with that either.
That to me is us not dealing with our stigmatism of what it is and our fear of what it can become. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to acknowledge that you are who you are. You accept that, but you don't necessarily have to sit there and dwell on the fact that you were an addict and you've changed and you've made a choice not to. That's kind of being repentant at that point. Like, you realize who you are, where you were broken, how you're broken, and then you're moving towards a change of heart.
Yeah.
That, right? And I mean, so, but there's more, I guess and since we're here, the whole thing here about what you're talking about though is Scripture has the answer here.
Yes, it does.
And there's a bunch of stuff to kind of talk about in regard to how the Bible it takes how did I put this takes the captivity part and the responsibility seriously at the same time. Okay.
Yes.
It phrases things differently than a disease and choice type of scenario. 1 Corinthians 6:12 really talks about how it's something being the master of a person. That's what your goal is, to just refuse that. You're not allowing yourself to be under bondage of a substance or a thing, right? That's where it's talking about.
Yeah.
Romans 7:14 talks about having it uses like a inmate or prisoner kind of language. Let's see, who was it? I think it was. I have it here. Luther Calvin.
Yeah.
Bondage of the will. Okay. It's not. not behavioral compulsion kind of thing. Paul, even though it's a contested passage, because he's talking about regenerate Christian versus pre-conversion under law kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it also talks kind of sort of about this and leads to a different direction. One of the things for me, though, that's kind of big is it is the last fruit of the Spirit mentioned, which is self-control. Mm-hmm. So it's not, in Galatians 5:19-23 is actually where this is at, but it really talks about being self-control.
Well, it's not white knuckle willpower, right?
No.
Well, and then here's where that all kind of comes to being, right? Like one of the things I tell people all the time is they'll say, Brian, you must have a great willpower to do whatever it is. No, my will is not my own. I pray for, the sturdiness and the strength to do the things that I need to do. But when you give yourself over to God, you give your will over to God. You do God's will, right? Like my shirt says, get in, losers. We're doing God's will, right? Like but you
still have agency.
You do, but you realize once you get to that point that you've sacrificed your will to Christ, that your agency really doesn't matter.
Well,
if you're walking in the path of Christ,
I think you continually make the choice every day to follow the will of God.
Yes.
Not that it doesn't go away. You're just continually making that choice.
Well, this will be funny to say out loud. It's habitual. Like for me, like I don't really have to, when I get up in the morning and I have that hour and a half alone, that's prayer time. That's time to talk with God and focus and do those things. Right. So it eventually becomes habitual. It becomes, I don't want to say addiction because addiction to me makes it almost sound unhealthy, but it becomes habitual. So
anyway, so there's plenty of places like drunkenness is mentioned a lot, and that's
Proverbs 23.
James talks about desire drags and entices, it conceives.
Yes.
It gets to sin. So I think where I was at when I was trying to put this together is like you have Proverbs kind of hits you in the front end.
Yeah. Punches you in the gut.
Before everything starts, it's telling you, hey, that drunkenness stuff, don't do that. That changes your mind. You don't want to do that. Then you have like the Romans part, which is like you're already in the midst of it. So how you're a prisoner.
Yep.
And then they're not really like rivals or anything. It's just telling you there's two sides to the scriptural language here, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things about like Celebrate Recovery, that's a big program that throughout whatever it is, it's a Christian-led ministry about, trying to help addiction. But it's different than AA and stuff. Because they kind of say they use the term bondage that needs grace and structure, not a one-time kind of decision. There's like, you have to work through, with faith and grace to break your bondage of that thing through Christ, right? That's the whole thing. I would say the whole thing, but I mean, whatever. But that's really the framework we're working with here. The Bible talks about not being mastered. It talks about being in bondage to a thing, a prisoner of a thing. That actual desire of these things or substances it like entices and drags you into by conceiving you, and that leads to you sinning. Okay. So the whole language around the biblical, and I'm kind of being short here a little bit because I know we're running short on time, but
well, it's not even that. It's just there's so much we could delve into on this that we could spend 4 hours.
Yeah, I mean,
whacking this around.
We're doing good right now, but we didn't really talk about specifics here with like particular drugs or whatever, or I mean, you can really go down a rabbit hole with and I started to, and I stopped myself because it's not really about like this particular drug does this and this particular drug does this and all this kind of things.
The heightened percentages of addiction and blah, blah, blah.
There's
so much that you can.
The question is addiction a choice or is it a disease? But it's not. I think we can tell by now it's kind of neither. It's not a binary choice.
It's kind of both, actually.
It is both.
Yeah.
Now, what I want, before I get into the next little thing here, what I want to say here is that people have a genetic disposition for all kinds of things.
Yes.
Okay. Like you'll be wired by your DNA to be more of something.
To do any number of things.
Any number of things. In this, any number of things. Our genetic code was broken when sin entered the world. That's just what you need to know, right? We're not fixing that anytime soon. It's broken. So when I look at anything like addiction or whatever, like, yeah, I think a choice is always there. Yeah. I just think that it's going to be harder for some people or not. And you still have to worry about, individual brain chemistry and brain makeups and metabolic stuff, everything that changes from person to person, how they're going to act. And I think it's with grace that we have to handle these things to the individual. It's not like a blanket thing we can just throw out there and go, well, this person is this and this. So, and one of the, here's the thing. One of the key things here with these, there was a specific one that I latched onto because it's near and dear and something I've directly dealt with, and that's cannabis and weed and all that stuff. And this is in the Christian community is also highly contested because you have a great deal of Christianity who says, no, it's a legal substance. It's bad for you, period. Don't even go there. Okay. And then you have another portion of that faith who says, well, it's just another plant or whatever that we have that we can use in a way that does not, lead to a bondage or prisoners type of scenario or addiction or whatever.
Yes.
And let me just lay this out because when my dad, later on in his life, what happened was he thought he had Parkinson's. He didn't. He had actually had a major stroke that never got treated and was having like micro strokes.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he really was having trouble, taking care of himself. And so we brought him into our home. Actually, this was his room, when he was here. And I'll tell you right now that without him using like smoking a joint or something, he wouldn't eat. He had no appetite, none whatsoever. He had really chronic pain that the cannabis and stuff helped him with a lot. His nerves and stuff, shaking and all this kind of stuff, it helped him a lot. So for us, it wasn't really a question of whether or not it's legal or illegal or this or that. It was like, if it helps my dad eat,
yeah,
and like stay alive and have a better like life at the, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
right.
My stepmother did the same thing. She smoked it. She was dying of cancer and she smoked it to have an appetite so that she could eat. Dude, smoke away, do your thing.
But I mean, but that's where the whole, there's a line here though, that it's illegal in Indiana.
Yeah.
So was I breaking the law by having, yeah, but I don't regret that at all. I'm taking care of my dad.
Nope.
And I don't want to get down the rabbit hole of like what laws should be followed and not, and circumstances and all this stuff. But I think clearly when you're talking about taking care of your loved one, Proverbs 31:6-7, 1 Timothy 5:8. I mean, just look at those, So anyway, here's some data. The medical research evidence shows that cannabis has a real impact on chronic pain, chemo, nausea, and all that kind of stuff, which is horrible. MS plasticity. Okay. Now that's mostly using the isolated cannabinoids, not like a smoked joint or something. And there's an FDA approved cannabinoid called Epidiolex.
Yep.
It's CBD for the seizure disorders and stuff. That's a real thing. Okay. Now, I think that there's still a danger here with cannabis. Okay. Cause I think there does tend to be, like, you have things like the cannabis use disorder kind of stuff. And, there's a psychosis and schizophrenia risk associated with using cannabis.
But also you have to have a predisposition to that mental illness for that to be what they have shown is you have to have an existent predisposition to mental illness, depression, things like that, severe depression, things of that nature. So yes, I do agree.
But bottom line for me is like the substance itself, and I think I can just say, regardless of what that substance is not a sin. It's what happens when consuming or using that substance that becomes a sin.
Yes.
Right? Like, you know, if you have, and I think later on there's some research we're doing on near-death experiences and DMT and stuff. I think DMT falls in this order line too, but we'll that's later. That's not today. Yeah. But like for me, cannabis is one of those things where it's a substance, just like the barley and wheat stuff that gets, you know, put into beer or fermented this or that, or, you know, whatever. It's just a substance.
Yeah.
And I think that it can be abused just like anything else.
Yes.
But it's not by itself a sin. Okay. Now, the other point that I kind of wanted to bring into this conversation was the gateway aspect of things.
Yes.
So we know addiction, obviously we're trying to steer away from addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And what comes with addiction though is that you hear a lot about gateway drugs, right? And what's interesting about the research though is it kind of points more towards nicotine being the root of some of this stuff. And I'll caution this a little bit here because the like nicotine word is like this. For some reason, it has. Well, I know what the reason. We kind of sort of talked about it, but like it has this target on its back that it's continually targeted by all kinds of things. And I think it's. And this is, if you see any of the medical research from like the medical association, all like AMA and all that kind of stuff, they're so anti-nicotine. Like you couldn't show them an experience where it's positive.
Yeah, and there are well done studies that show that a certain amount of nicotine can have a positive effect.
Yeah,
positive effect on brain function, on brain chemistry. You know, they're even showing now that a certain amount of nicotine can help people who suffer from Alzheimer's and dementia think clear and have less difficulty with the disease onset.
Yeah, and let's not forget that nicotine's in vegetables, by the way.
Yeah.
There's some nicotine there. So, I mean, that's the thing. I just want to preface that before you hear anything about that. But definitely like cigarettes, which is not just nicotine. Well, there's all kinds of stuff in those cigarettes.
Yeah, there's a ton of different chemicals.
You know, there's a lot. If you look at the ingredients involved in a cigarette, it's a lot more than just like this cigar. This cigar has tobacco. That's its one ingredient. That's it. There's not anything else in this That's a big difference. Anyway, there's a lot of evidence that point that like cigarette usage was the gateway into everything else.
Yeah.
You know, or alcohol led into other thing else. And usually the trend is like alcohol or cigarettes into cannabis, into other things. But that, again, this is not always the case. Like, you know, there's plenty of evidence that supports that not everyone who starts out with drinking a beer will end up snorting cocaine or, you know, injecting heroin. That does not happen all the time. That's not the case.
It doesn't. Sorry.
Imagine that. So to say that cannabis itself is a gateway drug, I think
it's kind of a loose thing to say.
Yeah, there's evidence to say it can be, and there's not, and there's percentages and everything.
And
but
don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's people that have started off smoking a joint and gone on to heavier things. But I don't know that the actual use of marijuana was the cause of that.
Right. I mean, and this is what confounds me too, man. Like it's not one substance by itself is not the gateway mechanism. It's any of them that used the wrong way and kind of you need something else, or you're not getting what you want out of it, goes to something else. That's the gateway aspect of it. Not necessarily that you're, you know, if someone's self-medicating with cannabis about their chronic pain or whatever, that doesn't lead them to go into some kind of search for, you know, fentanyl necessarily.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and here, this is, you mentioned that, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you brought that up. It's been 1.5 years now, I was in my car accident, right? I had a lot of damage, still working with some of the damage, still got ankle issue, still have neurological stuff going on in this eye, lost a bit of vision in my left eye. Actually lost more than a bit. That's why I'm shackled to these glasses now, because I can't see to drive if I don't have my glasses on. But while I was in the ambulance, I was given a half a dose of medical grade fentanyl. I'm not a fentanyl addict. I don't. And why I say that is to say this. You talked about nicotine is not the only thing in a cigarette. Street grade fentanyl is not the only thing in street grade fentanyl, right? So there's a difference between medical uses for cannabinoids, things like that, fentanyl, as opposed to what somebody's cooking in their bathtub.
Yes.
So like, I think that point needs to be made, right? Like it's not all, you know, I'm cracked out all the time because I got a dose of this when I was in pain or I was injured. Same with morphine. There's actual street grade morphine. They take morphine, they cut it with other chemicals, they sell it that way. So, sorry, I just had to say that. There's a definitive difference.
Yes, I mean, my wife had really. I mean, she was using fentanyl for a long time for her nerve stuff.
Oh yeah,
she had these fentanyl patches that she would use on her hips and everything.
Oh yeah,
from all kinds of nerve.
But that's medical grade fentanyl.
Oh, absolutely. You
right.
know?
That's not an addictive subject, right?
Well, I don't know if, I mean, I'm sure it could be addictive, but I mean, that's not.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's a.
Yeah. But anyway, so here's the thing. So let me just pull this back a little bit. So the gateway, there's not one gateway drug. They're all gateway. If that mechanism is left open for that person.
Well, and also if you have addictive tendencies, predispositions. Yeah.
So, but according to scripture, okay, the substance is not the sin. Okay. It's really the intoxication or mastery. Being mastered by that substance is the line here. Okay. So Ephesians 5:18, 1 Corinthians 6:10, Galatians 5:21. It's not the substance. And then you have like wine being called a gift.
Yeah.
Okay. Psalms 104, 14 through 15, 1 Timothy 5:23, John 2. I mean, come on.
Well, a great example about that too is also in countries like Italy, kids start drinking wine with their dinner as young as 12 years old. Italy has one of the lowest alcoholism rates in the world.
Well, not just that. I mean, here's my argument behind a lot of things that I end up with. It's like there was a point in human history where the water was killing people.
Yeah.
And what they end up doing is the monks were making mead and, you know, and that was what was safe to drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and so you had this period of time where human civilization, if they didn't have this mead, and they were all ages were drinking this stuff, would have been, if not exterminated. I mean, it was that bad because they didn't know.
Pirates. That's the reason that they drank rum, because the water wasn't clean enough for them to drink. They could make rum. So that's what they did, because it was the only thing they really had. I mean, unless you wanted a bucket full of seawater, which can kill you. So, you know, you're right.
Now, the one thing that I get here, and this is being in the apologetics kind of nerd that I am, the one Greek word that comes up all the time is pharmakeia.
Yes.
Galatians 5:20. Let me just say this I don't want to get into it. I'm not Wes Huff here, but pharmakeia is really talking about occult sorcery in that context, not your wine, not your, cigar, not your, whatever, not your joint. That's not what that's talking about.
Yeah.
That's really giving the Greek more credit than what or carrying it. That's letting the Greek carry more than what it says. Okay. So is the use itself sin? No. Is breaking civil law a separate sin? Yes. But there's also conditions we've talked about, like palliative care, that kind of stuff. You kind of have to unburden. You're like, you really need to take these kind of as a common sense type of thing. And discernment here is a big thing. My dad needed that to really, he wasn't going to eat. He just wasn't. It just wasn't going to happen unless he did that. So because it was outlawed, should I have just said, well, Dad, it's illegal.
It's
illegal. Just sit there and starve to death.
No,
that sounds
absolutely
appalling.
not. That's
right?
Horrible.
Yeah, cancer. If somebody's sitting here and having going through some really tough chemo stuff, and a joint would help ease their freaking nausea and stuff. Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Help them actually hold food down, because what does chemo do? It leaches all the nutrients out of your body and kills healthy and bad cells. Dude, doob up, my man.
I know.
I'm not going to fight you on it.
I'm just there now, but you have to understand there's risk involved with all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't. It's just common sense, people. That's all I'm saying. Now, and I want to say this too, because I didn't put this anywhere that we're going to talk about, but there's so many over the prescribed drugs that are far more dangerous than these substances are on their own.
Oxycontin, hydrocodone. I think as Reggie found out, a lot of the GLP-1s are not good for certain people. Like, there's dangers, but it also
GLP-1, GIP.
Let's also say this, and this is gonna be another one. If you trust the pharmaceutical companies for anything, just stop. There's a reason that they create drugs to deal with symptoms, not diseases. They do not want you to be healthy. They do not want you to be cured. If you are healthy and cured, they cannot make money off you. They want you to stay sick, but a controlled sick. So they're going to put things in your drugs that are going to proffer whatever disease or illness you're fighting against. Or that will make you so dependent on it. And the one I always fall back on is SSRIs. Now, I'm not a guy that says that SSRIs are bad, but the original SSRIs were originally built for about a 90-day stint. They were built to help you rebalance the chemical imbalance in your brain. And then they were supposed to take you to other therapies, take you off of the SSRI and give you to other therapies so that you could live a healthy life without being dependent. There are people that have been on SRIs for 20 years. They stop working after 12 months almost entirely. So now you are depending on a placebo to hold down. This is the takeaway. We're talking about addiction. They want you addicted to their product, because if you're addicted to their product, you'll never find the end game of being healed or being recovered. So that's another form of addiction. It's a legal form of addiction. I'm probably going to have some kind of CIA dude show up on my porch and punch me in the eye and tie me up and hang me from a yard arm because I said that, but that's okay. I'm fine with that, but
not all drugs though. Let's just be specific.
Not everyone. Tylenol, ibuprofen.
I mean, there's a bunch of actual drugs that are good.
Yeah.
I mean, they solve a problem.
Well, again,
or at least counter a problem. I don't know. I don't know
they counter a problem, but again, if you're looking for a course of recovery and healing, the pharmaceutical company is probably not going to offer you that. So again, another form of addiction. But
now let's state this. We are not medical professionals.
I'm not.
We are not pharmaceutical experts on anything. We're not.
Although if degrees could be had by the amount of reading that I've done on this subject, I would probably be a professional legally. I have read endless studies, reports, all these things about pharmaceutical drugs and things like that. And they are what they are, right? Like I'm not, but I'm also, again, if you've got somebody who's suffering from a terrible disease and the pharmaceutical company can offer them relief while recovering, if they're on the course to recovery, and I can give you this drug and it will help stop some of these side effects to make you healthier to take on the recovery end of it. Absolutely. Do what you have to do, right? I'm not going to be like, no, don't, you're going to just die. No, I'm not that guy either, right? But I'm also the guy that calls it the way I see it. Now, here's my question, Reggie. As we've talked about this for the last 90 minutes, I want to know where you're landing right now. Where are you mentally landing with all this?
Well, I mean, I think the majority of cases are well, okay, let's talk about this. The whether you're prescribed something or you start using a substance for whatever reason, it starts with a choice.
Yeah.
And you could be predisposed to react to that choice certain ways. And it leads to a point where you can allow it to become captive. And you're just you are in bondage to this thing.
To capture your existence.
Yeah. And I think for me, I mean, that's all kinds of things. Not just drug use, not just alcohol, not just whatever. I mean, all kinds of things. And you from a Christian perspective, it's not like that can't happen to you. I mean,
yeah,
there's plenty of people who are diehard, mature Christians who got into a situation with or trauma or whatever, or a medical thing or something.
Or had a surgery, then it just slipped into that addiction of that pain medication.
That's totally, and I think for me, it's not so much the pattern of it that is the problem here to understand. The way out of it, we already know. You got to get community has to be there. You have to have faith and grace and, maybe even some structural change to how you do things and that kind of thing. But it's not really a choice by itself. There's like other properties involved here. But the thing for me is that for anybody no one has the, like, I just feel like people just tend to throw those rocks at the glass houses.
Yeah.
When it comes to stuff like addiction and everything else. I mean, it just seems like you have people who just flat out say, it's all a choice and, how could you let this happen, blah, blah, blah.
And just be honest, I was one of those people at one time. I was one of those people that was like, you're just stupid. You just took it and you weren't strong enough and blah, 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 blah. And I regret being that person because now that I know more.
Right. And that's where I land on it. It's like, especially in the church, we cannot sit there and have this holier than thou stupid attitude towards addiction.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
And we're kind of too closeted about it anyway. Like for me, I don't see it. We're so wound about being a certain way, to look a certain way or be a certain way in the community, especially from the advent of social media and how that's just a freaking, circus of sensationalism and trying to act like you're this or that. But, we just forget that we're all broken, and that's where we gotta.
That's all. That's
where we
gotta.
That's all it really
boils down to is we're all broken.
We're just all broken.
So, here's where I think I land. It's both. It doesn't lessen the impact of it on families and the lives of people, but I think it's a little bit of both. I think there's 1,000 different catalysts for what can cause that initial choice to happen.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I think it becomes a disease, but there's an initial choice that comes along with it. And I don't blame the person for making the wrong choice. One of the things that I've done with my boys is I've always tried to teach them that no decision is healthy if it breaks down some part of you that creates a cognitive dissonance in your clarity. It doesn't work that way. But a lot of people aren't taught that. A lot of people, their examples in life are, well, my dad drank every time he got upset. That obviously worked for him, so I'm going to drink every time I get upset. Or, my mom popped pills. She seemed to be able to survive a lot. Wasn't a great relationship, but she seemed functional, which really, if you go back to it, she probably wasn't. So that's the way I did it. A lot of it is learned behavior. Now, there is one aspect that the jury is still out for me, and right now I'm leaning away from it, is a lot of people who blame their addiction on generational trauma. I'm not even sure that generational trauma is actually a real thing. So I kind of feel like that's a cop-out from taking personal responsibility. Just because you had somebody 2 generations previously who got ran over by a train and is horrified and were abused, that doesn't mean that somehow spiritually that transfers to you. If that were the case, I'd be the most broken, horribly disastrous human being you ever met in your life. Generational trauma is... I believe that there's generational trauma where behaviors are passed down, where we traumatize each generation. But this whole thing of that we genetically pass on our trauma, nobody's ever yet to prove that that's actually a thing yet. So a lot of people be like, well, I had generational trauma and it caused me to become an addict. My grandmother was mean to her son and that was my dad. But my dad was never mean to me. But he passed his generational trauma on to me. I don't know that that's something I'll ever buy.
Okay. Fair enough. I get it.
So
here's the deal. Just we are given much grace, and therefore we need to
give much grace.
Give much grace.
And as I always say, don't smoke crack. Dude, listen, you can't say it's not good advice.
So if you caught my AI solo episode and you realized how serious that situation was, so here I am in the midst of this whole like paralyzing kind of situation and freaking out and everything else. And what does Brian tell me?
Hey, don't smoke crack. Listen, okay. Just tell me, is it bad advice? You can't say it's bad advice. You can say, I'm tired of hearing it. You can say, man, you say that a lot, but you can never say it's bad advice.
Let me tell you what that is, though. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Hot garbage.
I love it. I love it.
This is RB Talks.
I'm Brian.
I'm Reggie.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.